freedom isn't the result of wealth, it's the foundation. Welcome to Wealth Independence, where freedom leads and real wealth follows through battle-tested strategies, hard-won lessons, and real-world experience. You'll discover how to accelerate your path to true financial independence. And now your hosts, Dustin Bailey and Adam Penn.
All right. Welcome back to the Wealth Independence Podcast, where freedom leads and real wealth follows. I'm Dustin Bailey, and here, as always, I'm with Adam Penn. Adam, what's up today?
Just enjoying another sunny day in California. Are those golden retrievers on your shirt?
No. These are, I don't know, some sort of tropical bird or something like that.
Gotcha.
It looks like it's, the way you're dressed, it looks wintertime.
Well, it's cold in the house. The AC is running, and I'm just sitting here.
That is a first world problem.
It is. What is it? Chris Mortensen said a while ago, I was watching a presentation from him, and he said the amount of energy used by a person, if you equate it to like how much energy a person expels normally on a day-to-day. So like we're talking like Adam as a human being can dig 7 kilowatts a day, right? Okay. And then like the amount of energy a person uses is like equivalent to having like 200 slaves if you were to put it to like Cleopatra and like how many servants she had and like how much energy is used in a day for like the air that's getting moved and the lighting and all of the things. I thought that was an interesting analogy.
So the flip side to that is so that's the energy, but there's also this correlation between temperature and the temperature of your working environment and your output, and that you tend to be more productive in cooler environments.
You can think better.
Yes. So, yes, you consume a massive amount of energy, but does your output make up for that? No, it doesn't.
No.
Yours doesn't, that's for sure. But maybe for other people. Well, anyway, that's I guess speaking of output, that's probably a halfway decent segment into
a pretty good segue.
Segue into this week's episode. This kind of, I don't know, you and I were talking about this earlier, and it comes up every now and then in investor conversations, but I've heard this. I've certainly asked this myself. It's like when you start learning about like passive investing, and you can invest in syndications, and it's like, oh, that's really neat that's completely passive. A common question can tend to be, well, but want to make more money like just doing all the work myself? And that's an interesting topic. So
I can dive into it a little bit. My answer is probably dollar for dollar, you will make more. But I think the thing comes to at what cost. And when we were planning this episode, I mentioned to Dustin that, my rentals that I have, my Airbnbs in Chico, they used to spit off a lot more cash. But I was cleaning them. I was answering every guest message. I was getting woken up at 2 a.m. I had a girlfriend a while ago that I'm pretty sure it's one of the reasons we broke up was because I took too many 2 a.m. calls. And if something broke, I fixed it. If I was out of town, I had to go find a provider because I was normally the provider to do it, which normally meant I had to call some generic company like Roto-Rooter and get charged an arm and a leg compared to having a in-house property manager or someone that could just go fix a simple plumbing issue, for $50 compared to a $200 call out and another $200 service fix.
I mean, I think that's the thing that people lose sight of. They get sort of myopically focused on either the returns, which that's another thing, right? I've heard this question phrased as, aren't my returns higher if I do the work myself, or do I make more money? And those are not necessarily the same thing, right? If you're looking purely at your investment returns, I don't know, they might be higher doing it yourself, but I think the bigger thing here is what are you trading off? And that's what people miss. So they're like, to your point, if you're sitting there doing all the work, the dollar amounts, the money hitting your bank account's probably going to be higher. But how much time have you traded off in order to achieve that?
And what was your purpose of buying that investment in the first place, right? Wasn't your whole goal that financial freedom, time freedom is really what we mean? So why are you trading that for another job?
Exactly. And that's something that, people get into this and they want to do the work, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, and if that's what you want to do, you absolutely can.
I was at a house this morning doing plumbing for a flip we have, right? There are times where I feel like my skill level, when I'm going to have to go hire a $100, $200 an hour tradesperson, it's worth it for me to go do a little bit of work.
Yeah. But also you can't always do that. And there may be times, even if you have the skills to do it, you're like, you know what? I don't feel like fooling with that right now. Or I've got a trip scheduled and this needs to get done. So I'm going to have someone else do it. And I'm like, you're willing to accept those, like that expense. And so lower cash flow or lower returns as a trade-off for what you're getting in some other, a benefit you're getting in some other part of your life.
I think the example, I can even go back to this flip really quick. I have 2 guys working for me right now, working on the flip, and they will have a labor cost associated with them, right? They're just handymen that, you know, I've known locally for years, and they're doing work while I can't. But we're here recording this right now, and they're out there getting stuff done. So my cash return is going to be lower, but the fact that I'm going to finish it, if I was doing it myself, this would take 5 months, 6 months. But with them, it's going to take 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden I go from a 6-month return, maybe let's say 8 months by the time I sell it on a flip, versus 2 months, 2.5 months. That means that I double my ROI on a time perspective. Yeah. I can go do the same thing again. Not to mention, I always go back to I'm helping them. They're getting work. They're increasing their income. They're providing for their family. That goes to goods and services in the community, right? Like there is an effect of the dollars being spent locally.
That's a really good point, and something I hadn't thought too much about until you mentioned that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of benefits, and I suppose if you know, there's a Robert Kiyosaki quote. I mean, it's along the same lines. It's not exactly applicable to this, I guess, but like he talks about if you own only one house, you're selfish, right? If you own multiple houses and you rent them out to other people, you're providing a benefit. And so other people are getting a benefit of something that you're doing. So kind of parallel to this, but that's I always encourage anyone that I hear say this to think it's like, okay, that's fine. And that's true. Yes, your dollar amounts will be higher, but are you comfortable with the trade-off you're making? First of all, do you recognize what that trade-off is? Which that's often a thing. People are like, oh, I'm just going to get into this because I want to make a whole lot of money. And they don't realize the trade-off. And then if you are, okay, once you realize it, are you going to be okay with that? Like when you actually start going through and you're answering those phone calls at 2 a.m., are you sure? Like, is that really what you want? And this again goes back, we've talked about this a lot, about how you've got to align, like whatever your actions are doing, got to align with your goals, right? You have to take time and say, okay, this is my goal, and then go do the things that are going to like be aligned with and help achieve those goals. If part of that is being able to have a whole bunch of, free time and truly passive income, well, flipping a house and doing all the work yourself is probably not going to be the way to get there, right? You make some money, but if the primary goal was to have a bunch of time to spend with family, that's not the route to get there. So there's several different ways to think about this. I mentioned this earlier before we hit record. I like the Tom Wheelwright sort of framework that he provides that's somewhat related to this, which is like he talks about retail versus wholesale versus factory owner. And those are kind of the three main levels of investing. And retail would be like you go out and buy a stock, like it's the lowest. Yeah, I mean, it's like completely passive. You're not involved with anything, but you've also got the lowest returns. But it's also arguably the absolute most passive thing you can do. Wholesale would be, okay, I'm going to take a little bit more time. I'm going to find the people who are selling I'm going to find the factory owners who are selling wholesale deals. So larger investment amounts, these would be equivalent to like syndications, right? So you have to put up a larger amount, but you're going to get a little bit better returns because you're going straight to the source. There's fewer intermediaries that are taking their cut throughout that. So returns are better, but you got to put in a little bit of work to evaluate the deals, to find the operators, things like that. And then finally, if you truly do want to do all the work and you want to get the highest returns and dollar amounts possible, well, you can own the factory. But you now own a factory. That's a job. Like you now you're responsible for running the factory and producing the thing. And so that might be okay. That might be aligned with what your goals are. But if it's not, if that's a much more active level than you want to be involved, then you're not going to be happy, even if the dollar returns, the dollar amounts you're getting are higher. And so I really like that because it's a simple way of thinking about it. It's a good way, I think, for folks to kind of say, okay, where really do I want to sit? Because I think for a lot of folks, a lot of investors we talk to, they kind of sit in that Goldilocks zone of, okay, well, I'm willing to do a little bit of work. I want to understand this. I'll go find good deals, good operators and good deals to invest in. I'll invest at the wholesale level. But I really, really value having a lot of time. I want passive income. I don't want to be the one doing the work. And so I'm just going to sit here and let someone else own the factory, and I'll get the benefits of the financial benefits of someone else doing all that work.
You just mentioned, you would be the factory owner, you'd have to sit there. And my first thought was, well, some factory owners have staff and big factories and they don't have to work, right? But then my next thought was an interview I heard a little while ago with Elon Musk. And when Tesla was first kind of starting production or a little bit into their production, his desk was on the factory floor. And he slept underneath it every night. That way, when the night shift came in, they knew that the CEO wasn't off in Bali on the beach. He's sleeping under his desk right there. Like, he was very aligned. And that's why Elon got such excised returns on the company, right? I mean, richest publicly known man, I always like to add that caveat, right? Because there are a lot wealthier people than the Forbes 100 list. Look at the Arab nations, but he got those returns because he owned the factory and he worked for it, right? So I just think there's a little bit of a differentiation, right? Eventually you are going to grow, but it's a different type of person, right? He was wealthy enough to retire for the rest of his life selling PayPal, and he kept building companies, right? So if you're that person, maybe you want to be the factory owner, but if your goal is to live I don't want to say average life, but a good life, have a lot of time freedom, and spend a lot of time with your family, that's different, right? And freedom looks different to every other person. I have a feeling, I don't know Elon personally, but I have a feeling he wouldn't change what he's done. And just as in, I know other people who are wealthy, got to a level and have stopped, right? Making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year passively, and they're not pushing for the next level, right? They don't need that next thing. They want to go be on the beach with their family. They want to fly to Europe or Asia, and they want to go on vacations, right? That they're done. They're happy, right? They've got the freedom they need. And I know me personally, I'll probably I hope I'll get to a few $100,000 a year of income, and I think I'll keep pushing, right? We'll balance the freedom, but I think there's always that next level to go to. But me and Dustin spend a lot of time on calls and meetings and doing things.
Yeah, for sure. And that's fine. Like that's ultimately what I want. Like I obviously, for me personally, I want the passive income, but I view that more honestly as an insurance policy for, like, if something happens to, like, I personally want income that's not correlated to my efforts, right? But that doesn't mean that because there's a passive income, I'm going to stop working. Like, I really don't think I can, like, I enjoy having a lot of free time, but at the same time, I can't go to the beach and sit and just like chill out for months and months and months and months. Like, usually if I go on vacation or we go to the beach, after like a couple of days, I'm really itching to, like, I got to be doing something else.
We were on that nice cruise going to ABC Islands, right? And we both had our laptops out on the sea days. Other people were sitting at the bars just drinking, and we're like, how could you do this? If we didn't have work to do for 3 days, what the hell would we be doing?
Yeah, we paid for the high-speed internet package and all the stuff so that we could keep. But that was fine, right? Like,
package. I wanted the coffee.
Yeah, exactly. We got both. But, like, yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, I don't know. That's not to get too woo-woo here, but when you find something that you enjoy doing, then it doesn't feel like work. And so on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean Sea, like, yeah, we were closing a deal in Memphis, right? Like we
did, yeah.
I mean, it was, but that's fine. I enjoyed that. And that's what I wanted to be doing. And so I think but again, like I still want to have the passive income to provide the optionality. That's probably, if for me personally, a lot of my goals, that's the word that I would use. And that's going to be different for everybody. There's nothing wrong if the goal is to have a bunch of passive income and just spend the rest of your days on the beach. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I know that for me personally, I wouldn't enjoy that. That I would enjoy it for a little bit, but then I would get bored and I gotta go find something else to do. So you really have to, it's this shit we talk about this a lot, but it's so important to align you got to figure out your goals so that your investing activities, whether and how active or passive you are aligned with that. Because if it's not, you're going to be miserable, regardless of the dollar amounts. And yeah, I mean, that's, again, I feel like we beat this horse a lot, but it's super important, because if you don't have that alignment, you're going to be miserable.
I think really just kind of the takeaway and close it out is just, there are ways to make more money, right? You can always skim fat off of a deal, right? Like, there's a property management fee on there. You could take that off. There's a landscaping fee. You could take that off. You pay a trash company to pick up the dumpster, but if you've got a truck, you could dump that in the bed of the truck and take it off to the dump. It's a lot cheaper. There's a lot of those things. There's, screen and tenants. There's roof repairs. There's all of those things could get thinned out. I don't know what else is in there you could take out. What other ridiculous items could we take out of title policies? You don't have to put title policies on properties, right? I mean, there's all sorts of things you could take off of there.
You don't have to pay a handyman to actually go out to the property and fix whatever random thing is broken at whatever time of day it needs to be fixed.
No. Yeah, you can go out and do it.
Yep.
So once again, it just goes back down to what do you want? And I think the reason that me and Dustin like some of the bigger deals is there's more team around you, right? To me, the biggest thing is that there's redundancy. If something breaks, if someone gets sick, if stuff happens, there's other people there to take over.
Yep. That's really good. Well, I think that's probably all we got for this one. I don't know. Any other parting thoughts?
Not particularly.
Sweet. Well, we would obviously love to hear from you. If first of all, if you're enjoying this and found this episode to be relevant, we'd love, go leave us a review, subscribe, do all the things on whatever platform you're on. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a review there. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like it, and we appreciate a subscribe to the channel. But do those things, helps the computers know that what we're doing here is valuable, and start pushing it out to more people. But we'd appreciate that. And then, of course, if you got any comments, we have a contact form on the website. We'd love to hear from you. It goes to us, and we're able to look at those, and we'll see and respond to anything that comes in. But Adam, if you don't have anything else, we'll get on out of here.
No, thank you for your time.
Well, everybody, we appreciate it. Thanks as always for listening. And just remember, where freedom leads, real wealth follows. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for joining us on Wealth Independence. This show is for informational purposes only and is not financial, investment, legal, or tax advice, and does not constitute an offer to buy or sell securities. All investments carry risk, and investors should always conduct thorough due diligence and consult with qualified professionals before investing. Until next time, remember, freedom leads and real wealth follows.